Pat Kelsey and Louisville basketball have made a statement to the rest of the college basketball world. With the additions of Flory Bidunga and Jackson Shelstad, Pat Kelsey has come out this portal season swinging. I think it's safe to say Pat Kelsey holds the title of being the portal king. He's proven 3 years in a row that whoever he wants, he goes out there. If he gets them on campus, they're staying. Let's go ahead and break down the portal additions of Flory Bidunga and Jackson Shelstad, what they bring to our team. And now that we've locked these two guys down, what else are we looking at as far as the rest of the roster? Let's get into it. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Louisville Sports Talk. I'm your host. My name is Cam. And today we are going to break down the additions of Flory Bidunga and Jackson Shelstad and what this means for the University of Louisville and head coach Pat Kelsey. By now, we all know the story of pretty much how everything's unfolded. Late last week, it was announced that Bedunga and Shelstad would be taking a visit to Louisville together. And so they arrived on campus, I think it was on Friday. While Bedunga was en route to Louisville, it was announced that he would also take an additional visit to Duke following his visit from Louisville. So he would arrive in Louisville on Friday, stay on Saturday, and then take a visit to Duke on Sunday. That was the plan. But like I said earlier, I think it's been proven over and over again now that if Pat Kelsey wants someone and he gets them to visit, then basically you can call it a wrap. But you wouldn't have thought that if you were chronically online like I am. It was basically already determined that Shelstad was going to go to Arizona and Bedunga was going to go to either Duke or Michigan. And then they both surprised everybody by announcing that they were going to visit Louisville together. After the announcement that they were planning on visiting together, you could already see the massive amounts of coping that was happening online. People were saying things like they were trying to drive their price up, they were looking for a bag, they were doing this, they were doing that, yada, yada, yada. I don't really care. I said it sometime last week in a space when it was announced that they were visiting, that you have to go out and you have to overspend. I don't care what the dollar amount is. There's a famous quote out there that I'm sure everybody knows by now. It's one man's trash is another man's treasure. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, there's plenty of sayings, but just because one school is willing to pay a certain player a certain amount of money, let's say use Bedunga for reference. So nothing that I'm saying right now has any weight to it or has any truth to it at all. But I'm just saying, let's say Louisville paid Bedunga $6 million. And let's say that the next closest offer that he was going to get was going to be $5 million. So what? Who cares? Everything that he offers is something that we desperately needed. Why does it matter if we did overpay for him? I don't understand that. It's a dumb argument. It's just insane to me. It's massive amounts of coping going on out there. I could care less about the amount of money that we spent for Bedunga. We desperately needed him and we got him. Pat Kelsey is a demon. He went out and he did his thing. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling about that situation. Let's go ahead and break down the additions of Jackson Shelstad and Flory Bidunga. Jackson Shelstad comes in at 6'1", 170 pounds. He spent the past 3 years at the University of Oregon, where he had over 70 career starts. This past season, he averaged 15.6 points per game, 2.9 rebounds per game, almost 5 assists per game, 1.5 steals, 39.1% field goal percentage, shooting 31.4% from three. This past season, his field goal percentage and his 3-point percentage took a dip. It's reported that Shelstad had been dealing with a lingering hand issue. There's some not confirmed reports out there that he had surgery in the offseason. It still lingered with him going into the season, and he ended up re-injuring his hand, causing ligament damage. So there's definitely something to monitor right there. After all the injuries that Louisville's had to deal with in the past couple seasons and what Dan Furman had to say on the Locked On Louisville podcast a couple days ago, saying that they're doing their due diligence in going through the process of understanding the injuries or injury history of the players that they're recruiting. I'm putting faith in hoping that they know what they're doing in that area. But yeah, watching Shelstad's tape, it's easy to see he's a crafty point guard who can create shots for not only himself, but for others. Throughout his career, he has solid scoring numbers, both from beyond the arc and also driving to the basket. He brings that offensive spark. Expect him to be the starting point guard in this offense. I expect him to run the offense, to push the tempo, and to be a reliable clutch option if needed. He's just overall a crafty playmaker who I think is going to help balance out the offense, and I think he'll match up very well with the surrounding pieces that we put around him. When I think of Jackson Shelstad and his potential, I honestly think back to what Pat Kelsey did with Chucky Hepburn. With him coming in from Wisconsin, there was just a lot of untapped potential that Pat Kelsey ended up bringing out of Chucky Hepburn. You saw Chucky's three-point shooting take a jump, his playmaking, his defense, just overall as a better player. That's what Pat Kelsey brought out of Chucky. And that's what I think you're going to see in Jackson Shelstad. Now, there's a lot of reports coming in from this past offseason saying that Shelstad was already checked out by the time the season started. I'd have to go back and watch full games to see his demeanor and just his overall presence on the court to determine whether or not if he was already checked out or not. But I mean, you look at just the Oregon basketball program as a whole last year, they were just a mess all over the floor. And so it's kind of hard to blame him per se. So it's kind of hard to blame the player and not see if the system was just a bad fit for him. I know that he was there for 3 years, but who knows what a guy can go through in that amount of time, what a person's dealing with, what he dealt with while he was there. Maybe he just needs a fresh start somewhere else. And I honestly think that Pat Kelsey can bring that out of him. He's a great three-point shooter. He's great at facilitating, creating offense for others, and running an offense. It's just him working with Pat Kelsey and developing over a single year in our offense could do wonders for his game. You saw Pat Kelsey do it with Chucky Hepburn and Rain Smith. You saw him do it last year with Ryan Conwell. So I really think that this year, Jackson Shelstad will be able to step into a new light and become a better version of himself. Now let's jump into what I'm sure everybody is here for. Let's talk about one of the biggest additions in transfer portal history, not only for Louisville basketball, just in transfer portal history. Let's talk about one of the biggest additions in Flory Bidunga. I'm sure this guy needs no introduction, but Flory Bidunga comes in as a 6'10", 235-pound forward, where he spent the past 2 seasons at the University of Kansas, where this past season we saw him take a jump into being one of the most dominant centers in all of college basketball. Last year in the Big 12, he averaged 13.3 points per game, 9 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and nearly 3 blocks per game at 2.6, while shooting a very nice 64% from the field, albeit most of his points came from lobs or dunks. But make no mistake about it, Flory is a dominant big man known for his rim protection, rebounding, and a high motor. He nearly averaged a double-double in the Big 12, where he was the Defensive Player of the Year. Combine that with his strong field goal efficiency, making him a reliable force inside. Expect him to be an anchor on the defense and finish strong around the rim. One player comp that I keep seeing being thrown around for Louisville fans is his game is very much like Montrezl Harrell, where he just goes and dunks everything. And in my opinion, Bedunga is bigger, stronger, and more athletic than what Montrezl Harrell was during his time at Louisville. So just knowing that and knowing his game, it just gets me so excited to have this type of player playing for the University of Louisville. Pat Kelsey really went out there and got the #1 player in the transfer portal. I mean, it was like Christmas. I mean, it just doesn't get better than this type of addition. This type of addition to your team not only raises your floor, but it pushes the ceiling so high. I mean, you already see people talking about Louisville being a top 10 preseason and Final Four contenders. What's really exciting to me is that Pat Kelsey is known for his fast-paced, guard-oriented offenses, relying on spacing the floor and three-point shooting. But what makes this addition different is now you have a true interior presence that you haven't had since Pat Kelsey's been a coach here. Going into year 3, so for the past 2 seasons, you haven't had that type of interior presence, an athletic rim runner and a rim protector that now completely shifts the balance of what we thought was capable with Pat Kelsey's offense. Now, Louisville isn't just relying on the guards to push the tempo. You now have a centerpiece that you can rely on in the paint, someone who can alter shots defensively, almost averaging 3 blocks per game, but someone who could also give you easy buckets in transition or in the half court in pick and rolls. And with the addition of Jackson Shelstad, you still have that dynamic guard that you're used to, but pairing him with a big like Bedunga completely changes the flow offensively. Kelsey is now blending his up-tempo guard play with a traditional interior anchor. That means fans should expect a lot more pick and roll action, more inside and out play, and just an overall more balanced attack. Basically, to sum it up, the addition of Shelstad and Bedunga isn't just an addition of 2 players. It's Pat Kelsey recognizing and expanding his playbook to be more versatile. I mean, we all have eyes. We all saw what the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, the Final 4 looked like. If you didn't have that athletic presence, somebody that makes a defensive impact in the paint, that's exactly what Bedunga is bringing. Now, he's not the most versatile big guy, especially on the offensive end. He's kind of limited. He's more known as just the athletic guy who catches lobs, can back somebody down in the paint, and just overpowers even bigger guys than him. He's known to be a little undersized. He's listed at 6'10", but a lot of people think that he's shorter than that, around the 6'9", maybe even 6'8" range. But what he lacks in size, he makes up for in physicality and athleticism. He plays bigger than what his size is. And what I think should really get Louisville fans excited is not only the additions of the 2 players, but the additions of the 2 assistant coaches on the coaching staff. John Anderchek and Sean Dixon, they both bring complementary expertise that aligns perfectly with these roster additions. Anderchek is known for his player development and attention to detail, especially with big men on the defensive end. Pairing him up with someone like Flory Bidunga, Anderchek could help refine his footwork, expand his offensive capabilities, and to help make sure that he's not only just a rim runner, but also a more polished post presence. Sean Dixon, on the other hand, also has a strong defensive background as well, and has worked with guards and wings extensively over at Clemson. I think his defensive expertise will be invaluable for someone like Jackson Shelstad, who definitely could use help on the defensive end. Not only that, but to help him grow as a leader. But together, these assistants aren't just filling roles, they're bringing specialized guidance. Anderchek can help mold Bedunga into a more complete inside force, while Dixon can help sharpen Shelstad's game, especially on the defensive end. In short, I think they were perfect additions to help elevate not only the new players that we're bringing in, but the team as a whole. You know, Pat Kelsey always talks about 25 strong, the power of the unit. I definitely think the additions of John Anderchek and Sean Dixon this past offseason is going to help us tremendously on the defensive end. But yeah, Louisville basketball and Coach Pat Kelsey came out swinging for the fences, and they've hit home run after home run, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. I'm very excited to see where this goes from here. We're definitely going to see more additions probably within the next couple of days. You're already hearing us being mentioned with multiple other players. A hot name that's being thrown out right now is John Blackwell from the University of Wisconsin. Another player that we're in reports of being heavily favored in landing is Polius Morauskas from St. Mary's. I don't want to talk about hypotheticals right now, but if we end up getting a visit, then I will start taking that more serious. But yeah, we're just in a lot of talks with a lot of really good players right now. My personal opinion is I would like for us to see go after some 7-footers, maybe pair Bedunga with a 7-footer. I would say start a 7-footer at center. He doesn't have to be the most polished guy on the offense or defensive end, but just someone, a large presence anchoring down the center position, and then maybe starting Bedunga at the 4 is something that I would like to see, and then surrounding them with just pure shooters and athleticism. I think that would be a nice look. Only 2 portal additions in so far, have a lot more to go, but overall, A++, 100% effort. Just you can't overlook or undersay anything about what Pat Kelsey is doing right now. I know it's in the off season. You know, I don't want to hang a banner in the off season and claim ourselves, you know, the transfer portal champions or anything, but just the effort and just the recognition and the overall, I guess, accountability from Pat Kelsey to not only go out and make changes amongst his staff, but to recruit and go after players that he hadn't in the previous seasons is just a nice look. And it's just a thing that you would want to see in your head coach, noticing him make changes, you know, For the first 2 seasons, you know, he was that run and gun, shoot a lot of threes. It doesn't really matter if they go in or not. And now you're seeing him actually take a look and make an effort into changing and becoming a better defense and just become an overall more powerful offensive unit. You know, anchoring down, having Bedunga anchoring down the forward slash center position is something that raises our ceiling from being a tournament team into being that Final Four team. That's truly what I think of him. A lot of people are saying that Bedunga is the #1 rated transfer portal prospect ever, and this is before, you know, players commit to schools and then play their seasons at that school. But just during the offseason transfer portal process, everybody, it's widely known that Bedunga is the best player to ever enter the basketball transfer portal. And it's just amazing to see what Pat Kelsey has done in such a short time in this offseason. I give him like I said, an A++, a round of applause. I can't wait to see what they do with the rest of the roster. And here's to hoping that I can make an update here in a couple days about what the roster currently looks like. But yeah, anyway, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Cam. This has been Louisville Sports Talk. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.